Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today we're learning Daf Mem Zayin. Some interesting stuff over here. I guess we'll just get into it. There does get to be some technical stuff. Like if you remember back from our mission at the beginning of the parak, things like Demai, Meiser Sheni, Hekdesh, things like that. So it gets a little technical, but then some interesting other stuff about learning Gemara, other interesting stuff. But let's just jump right in. Daf Mem Vav Mud Beis, all the way at the bottom. Tana Rabbanan in Mechabden lo b'duachim lo b'ksharim lo b'yadayim mizuhamos. We don't honor people to say to somebody who's greater than us, no, you go first. We don't do that in three situations. One of them is when you are on the road. So now I'm not exactly sure necessarily what the use case would be nowadays. But let's say if you can imagine back then, so you'd have people driving. Each person would be on their own horse or something like that. So you don't say hey, you go first. But nowadays, if you're driving with somebody, you're probably in the same car. So I don't know, but maybe if y'all, maybe on a bicycle. Maybe if you're riding a bike with somebody greater than you, don't say you go first. Boom. There's the use case. V'lo b'ksharim, and not on bridges. V'lo b'yadayim mizuhamos, and not when your hands are all dirty at the end of the meal and you're going to do mayim achronim. Don't say oh, you're a great guy. Why don't you go first? Don't do that. Ravin ve'Abaye, havu ka'azle b'urcha. Very exciting. So Ravin and Abaye were traveling together. Kadmei chamrei de Ravin le de Abaye. Oh, so Ravin's donkey preceded Abaye's donkey. V'lo amarle nezil mar. And Ravin didn't say to Abaye, who was greater than him, he didn't say that the master should go ahead. So Abaye said to himself, so now Ravin would often frequent Eretz Yisrael and then come back to Bavel and sort of report things in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. So Abaye was saying, now that Ravin is heading over and making frequent trips to Eretz Yisrael, he thinks he's a big shot, and he doesn't even have to give me honor, and he's going first on the road. But when they got to the entrance to the Beit Knesset, so at that point, Ravin said to Abaye, let the master go in first. So So Abaye then says to Ravin, and what, until now, I wasn't a master? How come, what's the deal? How come when we were traveling, you weren't giving me any kavod, and now all of a sudden by the shul, you're giving me kavod? So Ravin said, because Rabbi Yochanan said the following, you are only mechabed other people by a entranceway that has a mezuzah. Deis ba mezuzah in, deleis ba mezuzah lo. What do you mean only by a entranceway that has a mezuzah? Only if it has a mezuzah, and if it doesn't have a mezuzah, then you aren't mechabed anybody? What's the deal with the mezuzah? So el me'ata beis hakneses or beis hamedrash deleis bu mezuzah hachinam midei mechabden. So in a beis hakneses or beis hamedrash that they don't have a mezuzah. So it's an interesting halacha kind of thing. I don't know much about it, but apparently in shuls and in base medrashes, sometimes they don't have a mezuzah. Yeah, I don't know exactly why. Ella ema. So what? So in a shul and a base medrash, you wouldn't have to be mechabed somebody greater than you to go in first because there's no mezuzah on the door. So ella ema pesach haroy mezuzah. No, meaning as long as there's a doorway that is fit to have a mezuzah on it, so then we give honor to people greater than us to go in. So therefore, Ravin did not give Abaye kavod while they were traveling. But once they got to the Beis HaMedrash or the Beis Knesset and there was a door, so then he honored Abaye to go in first. And it's actually also interesting because Abaye, it was on, what was it, probably Ches Amud Aleph or something like that Abaye said that he used to learn at home and daven in the Beis Knesset or whatever, and then he only started to just daven at home. Right? Right? So then he started davening at home when he realized that because that's where he learned at home. So maybe this story was before he started davening at home, or maybe, as I suggested when we learned Ches, maybe Davka he just started learning in the Beis Knesset as well, and that was just where he was hanging out all the time. But either way, we see that Abaye was going to the Beis Knesset. Amar Vuda Breda of Shmuel Bar Shilas Mishmei Derav Ein Amsubin Rashayin Lechol Klum Ad Shidom Abotzeh. So if you are at somebody's house and he is making the bracha of hamotzi. So, and then if, don't eat the bread until he eats first. So if you'll notice, usually the person who makes hamotzi will immediately eat a piece of bread. So, I suspect it could be because of this, that we want to make sure that the person who makes the bracha eats before everybody else does. Rav Safra Amar, Yosef Rav Safra v'ka'amar lit'om itmar, right? So Rav Safra seemingly was like nitpicking on this statement and saying it's not enam mesumim ra'ashayin le'echol, rather it's enam mesumim ra'ashayin lit'om. So the Gemara says, l'may nafkamina, what's the difference? Shchayvad l'lomer b'lashon rabo. The nafkamina is that a person needs to say it the way that his teacher said it. If the teacher said lit'om, so he should say lit'om, not sheyuchal. Okay? Tana Rabbanon, shnayim mamtinin zeh lezeh b'kaira. So if you have two people sharing a plate of food, they should wait for one another, right? You shouldn't, if you're sharing a plate of food with somebody, don't start eating, don't get a head start, right? Wait for them and start, wait for your friend and start at the same time. Shlosha ein mamtinin. But if you have three people sharing a plate of food, then you don't have to wait. It's the Wild West. Whoever can chop as much food from the plate as, wins. So the person who makes the bracha on the bread, so he's going to also, dip his bread into the hummus first. I guess it's one of the perks of making the bracha on the bread. If he wants to let somebody else dip his, if he wants to let his teacher or somebody greater than him get the first dip in the hummus, then that is allowed. But we did say that the person who makes the bracha should eat first. So I imagine that even if, I don't know, I could be wrong here, but maybe even if you let somebody else get the first dibs on the hummus, the person who makes the bracha should probably still be the first one to eat. So Rabba Bar Bachana was making a chasana for his son, and I guess he was marrying the daughter of Rav Shmuel bar Rav Katina. So called him B'Yosef v'kamasni levrei. So now Rashi points out that normally the chasen would make the bracha on the hamotzi for everybody. So Rabbi Babachana wanted to make sure that his son was ready and that he knew all the halachas of Suda before the wedding. So he said, Eina botzei Rasha livtzo at shichlo amen mipia onim. So Rabbi Babachana told his son that when you're cutting the bread, don't break off the piece from the bread until everyone has finished saying amen. Rav Chizda amen mipi rova onim. Rav Chizda says you don't have to wait until everybody finished saying amen, just until the majority of people have finished saying amen. Amen Rabbi Bachama. So Rabbi Bachama says to Rav Chizda, Maishna Ruba Dakati Lokaya Bracha. How come if the majority of the people have not yet said amen, you can't yet separate the bread from the piece of bread from the loaf? Is it because they haven't yet finished the bracha? Right now, and if we remember from a few pages ago, daf something amid something, so daf lametes amid beis, so we said that you should finish the bracha before you pull off the piece from the bread, right? If you remember, there was a machlokas of, do you finish the bracha as you're pulling off the piece from the bread, or do you finish the piece of the bread, do you finish the bracha first and then break off the piece of the bread? So we say that finish the bracha first, then break it off. So we're saying that not only is it, do you finish the bracha, but you also want to wait until everybody finishes saying amen, because in Rashi says, Af anias amen min bracha, which is super interesting, that even saying amen is actually part of the bracha. Super duper interesting. So Rav Chizda said that you just need the majority of people to answer amen. So Rabbi Bachama says, wait, I don't understand. And let's say the majority of people didn't yet answer amen. So why can't you break off the piece from the bread? Because the bracha isn't yet done. So then, miyutanami lo kalya bracha. Well, then if some of them haven't yet finished saying amen, then also the bracha is not yet done. So, the bracha isn't complete until everyone has said amen. So why is Rav Chizda saying that you just have to wait until most of the people say amen before you can break off the bread? Amalei, Rav Chizda responded, Shani omer kol ha'oneh amen yosem midai einu ela toeh. Because Rav Chizda says, look, you have to say amen within reason. If you say amen for too long, then you are mistaken, and therefore we're not waiting for you. And I guess it's not considered, these people aren't taken into account when considering the people answering amen and that being part of the bracha. Tani Rabbanan, the rabbis taught, Ein onin lo amin chatufa, v'lo amin ketufa, v'lo amin yisoma, v'lo yizok brach mipiv. So a person should not say an amin chatufa. What's an amin chatufa? An amin chatufa, I believe, is if you basically don't pronounce the aleph. So it just basically is like main. Okay? V'lo amin ketufa. Don't have a amin that is like cut off, meaning ameh, and you don't really say the nun. V'lo amin yisoma, and don't have an orphan amin. What's an orphan amin? So basically, like an orphan, if somebody doesn't have any parents, so an amen Yisoma is an amen that doesn't have a bracha connected to it. Meaning, you shouldn't just hear people saying amen and then join in and say amen. What are you saying amen to? Right? There's no parent bracha. Right? You're not saying an amen to anything. So therefore, don't do that. However, as Rashi points out, there's actually a Gemara in Sukkah that talks about the big shul in Alexandria, that it was so big, or at least the acoustics were so bad, that you couldn't hear it was probably a combination of both, that you couldn't hear the chazan, and they would wave sweaters when it was time. They would have like flags or something that they would wave so that people knew when to say amen. So the question is, well, isn't that an amen yisoma? They're not hearing the bracha, and they're saying amen. But over there, they knew exactly what bracha they were making, so they knew what they were saying amen to, which is an important thing. So like, as long as you know what you're saying amen to, even if you don't necessarily hear it, but that could be okay to join in with the other people saying amen. But if you just you hear people saying amen, don't just say amen if you don't know what you're saying amen to. That would be an amen yisoma. And don't just like throw a bracha out of your mouth as fast as you can. That basically shows like you're not really paying attention, you're just doing it because you do it. Anybody, so Benazai says that somebody who answers an amen yisoma, so his children are going to be yisomim, i.e., this guy's going to die. Oy. Chatufa yischatfu yamav. If you say an amen chatufa, i.e., when you miss the first letter, so your days are going to be missing their first letter. I don't really know what that means. Like what? We're going to take away your youth from you? Maybe, I don't know, maybe like something terrible is going to happen to you, and you're going to be like in bad shape. Oy, this is intense stuff. Ketufa is katfu yamav. And if you say an amen ketufa, so then, right, that's when you cut off the amen, so then your life is going to get cut off. Oy. But if you have a long amen, so then we give you a really long life. But not too long, because as we said that if you say amen for too long, then you're just mistaken. So just the perfect length of an amen. So Rav and Shmuel were sitting and eating. Also, Rav Shimi Bar Chia. So Rav Shimi Bar Chia came. I wonder if that was Rav's first cousin, but in any event, Rav Shimi Bar Chia came. He was clearly trying to eat very quickly. And they were being like, what's the deal with this guy? Why is he just like coming up to our table and like eating super quickly? Amalei Rav, so Rav said to him, Madaitech, nitztarufi ba'adan, ana achlinan lan. Right? So Rav says to him, wait, what's going on? You're basically trying to come here and eat as quick as you can, so it'll be like you like ate with us, and then we can make a zimun? We already finished eating. Like, we're done eating. You can't just come and eat after us, and it'll be as if we all ate together. Amalei Shmuel. Shmuel says to Rav, really? Ilu maisuli ardelia. If they would bring for me truffles, my favorite food, vigozlaya laaba, and they would bring you, young chickens, which is your favorite food, milo achlinon, would we not eat? And therefore, even though technically, we're not eating anymore, but we would eat if our favorite foods came out. And therefore, when it's not like we're considered like we're 100% done. And if Rav Shimi Bar Chia is now coming to join us, that's cool. He's considered one of us, and we can make a zimun. Talmidei de Rav Abu Yasser b'Sudasa. The students of Rav were sitting in a Suda. Al Rav Acha. So Rav Acha came up to the Suda. Amre, they said, also Gavarabba de Mavarachlan. A great man has come, and he will surely lead the zimun. Amelu misavrisu de Galda Mavarach, Ikasha b'Suda Mavarach. So Rav Acha said, what do you mean? Do you guys really think that it's the greatest person who makes who leads the benching? It's somebody who was there from the beginning. Should be benching. And the halacha is that actually, nonetheless, the greatest person is going to lead the benching, even if he only got there later. Okay, now here we start getting into some of the more technical stuff with Demai and Meiser Sheni, Meiser Rishon, Trumas Meiser, all sorts of fun stuff. So maybe just take a second, get your focus on. Let's go. So one second. So we said in the Mishnah that if somebody eats demai, okay, what's demai again? Demai is produce that you purchased from an Amma Aretz. And that is somebody who is suspected, we're not sure that he necessarily separated Meiser from it, which is 10% that he gives to Levi. So therefore, we don't eat it unless we separate Meiser on our own. So the Gemara says, "Halo chazilei." How come you're allowed to make a zimun after eating demai? You're not allowed to eat demai. So kevan deibai mafkedu l'nechase v'ave ani v'chazilei. So since if he wants, theoretically, he could just make everything that he owns hefker, in which case he will be a poor person, and poor people are allowed to eat demai. The Tanan, as we learn in the Mishnah, that we feed, and poor people, they're allowed to eat demai. And achsanya is that when the soldiers from the king would come to town, there would be responsibility upon the people in the town to feed them. And therefore, you're allowed to feed, right? Soldiers are allowed to eat demai. And Rashi says something interesting, because they are considered like poor people, because they are not in their normal place, right? Because they're not in their normal place, therefore they're allowed to, they're considered like aniyim. Very interesting. I guess when you're in your own place, you know where everything is, you know how to get by, you know how to get food, you know how to do everything. But when you're in, a place that's unfamiliar, then you are considered like a poor person. You're allowed to eat demai, which is interesting. Now, are we talking about like Jewish soldiers? Why would soldiers like care about demai? Are we talking about like Jewish soldiers who like get to a town and there's some demai there? They would be allowed to eat it? Maybe. Okay, so that's what we're talking about. So since a person theoretically could make himself into a poor person and then he'd be allowed to eat demai, so even if he eats demai when he's not allowed to eat demai, he could still make a zimun. Okay? Amar Rav Huna says, Rav Huna Tana Beis Shammai Om Ein Machilin Esaniyim V'Sachsanya Demai. Okay, Rav Huna points out that Beis Shammai says that we don't feed poor people and soldiers demai. Okay, that's Beis Shammai's opinion. We don't pass in that way. Ma'aser Rishon Shenitla Trumaso. Oh, so the Mishnah, right? So this is talking about Ma'aser Rishon, right? So a guy has a field, he harvests the field, he then gives 2%, theoretically he's supposed to give 2% to a Kohen. We're going to see that he didn't necessarily do that here. And then he gives, from what's left, 10% to the Levi. Okay, so we said in the Mishnah that the Levi then takes 10% from the Meiser that he receives, and he gives that to the Kohen. That's what's called Trumas Meiser. So we're saying Meiser Sheni Shenit L'Trumasan. So Meiser Sheni, not Meiser Sheni, Meiser Rishon Shenit L'Trumaso. So basically, we're talking about a Levi here. He got his Meiser from Yisrael, or from somebody, and he separated 10% and gave that to the Kohen. You're allowed to make a zimun on that. So the Gemara says, Pshita, obviously, he could make a zimun on that. What's the problem? He had Meiser, he separated his 10%, gave it to the Kohen. Of course, he can make a zimun on that. So tzricha ela sheikdimo b'shibolim v'ifresh mimenu trumas Meiser v'lifresh mimenu truma gedola. Oh, so every time I've mentioned truma and Meiser up until now, I basically said a guy harvests his field. What he does first is he takes 2% for truma and he gives that to the Kohen, and then he takes from what's left 10% and he gives that to the Levi. But this is not what happened here. In here, the Levi jumped the gun, he beat the Kohen to it, and he ran up to the field right immediately after it was harvested, before the owner of the field separated 2% and gave it to the Kohen, and immediately the Levi took his 10%, or at least asked for it, whatever it is, he got 10% of the field before the Kohen took his got his truma, right? So therefore, part of the Levi's meiser that he got really belongs to the Kohen, right? 2% of what he now has for meiser really belongs to the Kohen. But he never separated 2% and gave it to the Kohen. Instead, he only took the 10% of the meiser, mina meiser, that he has to give to the Kohen, and that's what he gave to the Kohen. But he never took, truma from this meiser to make up for the truma that was never taken from the field initially. That is what we're talking about. So again, I'm going to read that again. It's talking about where the Levi preceded the Kohen in Beshibolim. And Beshibolim means that when the field was harvested, but not yet necessarily organized into a pile and done what's called meruach, which is like basically even out the pile, right? So it was basically all the grain was like lying on because we're going to see in a minute that there's a difference once you actually make it into a pile, okay? But so at this point, the stalks were lying on the floor. The Levi got there. He took his meiser before the Kohen took his truma. V'ifresh mimenu trumas meiser, and then he separated 10% from his meiser the Levi separated 10% from his meiser that he has, and he gave it to the Kohen. V'lo hifresh mimenu truma gedola, but he had never separated from his meiser truma gedola, which really belongs to the Kohen since it was never taken initially. And this is like Rabbi Abahu, Damar Rabbi Abahu, Amar Rish Lakish, Ma'aser Rishon Shekdimo B'Shibolim, that if the Levi precedes the Kohen to take his Ma'aser from the stalks of wheat, Patur Mitruma Gedola, he does not have to take Truma, 2% from his Ma'aser, and give that to the Kohen. Shene Amar, as the pasuk says, "Varimosa mimenu trumas Hashem ma'aser min ha'ma'aser." The pasuk says by ma'aser for the Leviim that then they have to take 10% from that 10% and give that to the Kohen. Ma'aser min ha'ma'aser amarti lach v'lo truma gedola v'trumas ma'aser min ha'ma'aser. Right? The Torah only says that the Levi has to take 10% from his ma'aser and give it to the Kohen. He does not have to take 2% also and give it to the Kohen in a case where truma has not yet been taken out. So as I said, there's going to be a difference between when the grain has just been harvested but not yet put into a pile and when it has been put into a pile, right? So we say that, so Rav Papa says to Abai, so if this is the case, that he's only chayiv to take ma'aser min ha'ma'aser, but not truma gedola from his ma'aser if it had not yet been taken. So that should be the same thing. Once the grain has already been put into a pile, and then the Levi gets there and takes his 10% before the Kohen had taken Truma, right? The same thing should apply, that the Levi should only have to take Ma'aser min ha'ma'aser, but he shouldn't have to make up the Truma. So Amarle, so Abai says to Rav Papa, Alecha Amar Kra, about your use case, the pasuk says, Mikol ma'asosechem tarimu. Actually, there's a change to Mikol matnosechem tarimu, because that's what the pasuk says, that from all of your gifts that you get, you have to take truma, right? So what's that talking about? That from all of your gifts, that's talking about the Levi, right? The Levi, when in his meiser, from all of his gifts, he has to take truma. What truma are we talking about? So we're talking about, in this case, that once it's actually made into a pile, right? And you've done meruach, which is like flattening off the top of the pile, I believe. So at that point, then you have to take truma in the event that truma had not yet been taken out before the Levi had collected his maaser. Umara Isa, what's the difference between once the grain has been made into a pile versus before it's been made into a pile? Hay idgon v'lo idgon. That once it's been made into a pile, it's what's called dagan. And Rashi points out that the pasuk says reishis digan chatiten lo. That the first of your grain you have to give to the kohen, right? And therefore, once it's made into a pile, it's what's called dagan. Once it goes into dagan, once it's dagan, you have to first give the truma to the kohen before the Levi can take his maaser. And if he took the maaser before the kohen took his truma, then the Levi is going to have to, in addition to the maaser min maaser, the 10% of his maaser that he gives to the kohen, he's also going to have to make up the 2% of the maaser, give that to the kohen as well to make up for the truma gedola that was never taken. Cool. You guys all got that? Awesome. Good to hear. Maaser Sheni v'Hekdesh shenifdu. Oh, so Maaser Sheni and Hekdesh that were already redeemed, right? So remember, what's Maaser Sheni? Of course, just quickly, guy has a field. When he harvests it, he first takes 2%. Wow, you guys are going to be experts on this stuff already. I feel like I've said this so many times. So takes 2%, gives it to the Kohen, takes 10%, gives that to the Levi. What's remaining from that, he then takes 10%. That's what's Maaser Sheni. He brings that to Yerushalayim and eats it there. If he doesn't want to eat it, so then if he doesn't want to take it to Jerusalem, schlep it to Jerusalem, so then he can transfer the kedusha onto money and bring the money to Jerusalem. Okay. In Hekdesh also, Vizi basically says, like, okay, this field I'm being makdash. This field, is as kedusha. It's going to the Beis Hamikdash. So he can also then transfer. He can't eat anything from the field anymore because it's kadosh, it's holy. But he could transfer the holiness onto money and then bring that money to Jerusalem and spend it there, or maybe give it to like the treasury or something. Not exactly sure. I think maybe he can give it to the treasury, but again, I'm not exactly sure. Okay. Pshita, of course, if the Maaser Sheni and the Hekdesh were already, transferred their kedusha onto money, you can eat them and you'll make a zimun on that. Oh, so this is talking about where, so when you transfer the holiness from Maaser Sheni, and I believe Hekdesh as well, yeah. So if they want to transfer the kedusha onto money, so not only do they give the principal amount, so let's say you have $100 worth of Maaser Sheni or Hekdesh, so you wouldn't just transfer that to $100, you would actually transfer it to an additional chomesh, which would come out to $125, because a chomesh is really a quarter, right? Because 25 is 1/5 of 125, the total amount. So basically, it's 100. So basically, you wouldn't just be put onto $100; you'd be put onto $125. So, but let's say we're talking about where the guy didn't do that; he just did a 1-to-1, conversion. So, and he left out the chomesh. It's okay; you would still be able to make a zimun on that. So that's the chiddush over here. Okay. Fine. Hasham shalcho kazayis. If we have a waiter who ate a kazayis of food with them, so pshita, obviously he'd be able to be included in the zimun. But I might think that, but the shamash has been running around, he hasn't really been sitting with them, so maybe he can't join in their zimun. So kamash malan, the Mishnah is letting us know that actually he can join in the zimun. The akusi mizamnin olav. And akusi, remember, those were those converts who really only converted because they were scared of the lions, and it says that they would do mitzvahs, but they would also serve their getchkes. Okay, so Amai, how come you could make how come you can include a kuti in a zimun? Lo ye ela ama aretz, right? A kuti should at least just be considered like an ama aretz. Vitanya ein mizamnin al ama aretz, that you cannot make a zimun with an ama aretz. So if you can't make a zimun with an ama aretz, so you also shouldn't be able to make a zimun with a kuti. So Baya Amar B'Kusi Chaver. So Baya says we're talking about a kuti who's taka Talmud Chacham. Kilu, look, these guys converted. So if you have a kuti who converted and he's mamish shomer Torah mitzvahs, he's a Talmud Chacham. So he's just like any other Talmud Chacham, and you could include him in a zimun. Okay. Rava Amar Afilu Tema B'Kusi Amaretz. Rava says no, you can even just be talking about a regular kusi. Okay, but then it should just be like an Amaretz. How come you can include him in the zimun? V'acha b'Amaretz dirabanan. That when the Brisa says that you can't include an Ama'aretz in a Zimun, so that's an Ama'aretz as defined by the Rabbanan's definition of an Ama'aretz, the Rabbanan who argue on Reb Meir. What are we talking about? The Tanya is we learn in the Brisa, Ezu Ama'aretz. So what's an Ama'aretz? Kol she'enu ocha chulav b'tayra, the Reb Meir. So Meir defines an Ama'aretz as somebody who doesn't eat his chulin in purity. What does that mean? So in general, chulin, what's chulin? Chulin is just basically regular food, right? If I go to the shuk right now and I buy some food, that food is not holy. It's chulin. It's not truma, right? It's just regular food, and I can eat it. I don't have to be pure to eat it. However, truma, that if I give the 2% to the kohen, that is what's called ta'aros, and that needs to be eaten. The truma has to remain pure, and it has to be eaten by somebody who is pure. Okay. So now there are people who are makpid that they only eat things that aren't ta'aros, even just regular food, they only eat it when they are pure, to make sure that they don't come into a situation where they're going to eat ta'aros when they're impure. So they just always make sure that they're pure when they eat. So Rabbi Meir defines an Ama'aretz as somebody who does not eat his chulin b'taros. Where am I? I lost myself. So Rabbi Meir defines an Ama'aretz as somebody who does not eat chulin in a state of purity. Okay. The Chacham say that an Ama'aretz is defined as somebody who doesn't take meiser from his fruits, which is basically like what we've been referring to an Ama'aretz in the context of Demai, right? Right? Somebody who buys fruit from an Ama'aretz, i.e. somebody who didn't take meiser from the fruits. Okay. So therefore, we're going to define in that brisa that says that you cannot include an Ama'aretz in your zimun as an Ama'aretz, meaning somebody who doesn't take meiser from the fruits. And kusim actually do take ma'aser from fruits. That is something that they are trusted to do. Because that which is written in the Torah, they are very makbid on. That any mitzvah that the kutim did, they were even more makbid on it than Yisrael, right? Than people who are Jewish and their fathers were Jewish, etc. Right? So zel and kutim take seriously the mitzvah of meiser. Therefore, the brisa that says that you can't include an Ama'aretz in a zimun, that's referring to somebody who doesn't take ma'aser, and these kusim take ma'aser. That is why the Mishnah says that you can include a kuti in your zimun. Tanu Rabbanan, Ezu Ama'aretz. What is an Ama'aretz? Kol she'enu korei kriyas shma arvis v'shachris divrei Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer defines an Ama'aretz as somebody who does not read kriyas shma in the evening and in the morning. Rabbi Yeshua Omer kol she'enu maniach tefillin. Rabbi Yeshua defines an Ama'aretz as somebody who doesn't put on tefillin. Ben Azai Omer, Kol she'ein lo tzitzis bevigdo. Ben Azai says in Amaretz is somebody who doesn't wear tzitzis on his garment. Now, is that talking about if he has 4 corners on the garment and he doesn't put on tzitzis? Or is it talking about somebody who just doesn't, wear any garments with 4 corners and therefore doesn't put on tzitzis? I don't know. I suspect it's the first one. Meaning because the other ones are talking about, right, somebody doesn't put on tefillin, somebody doesn't say shachas v'arvos, it sounds like somebody who has a mitzvah to do and they're not doing it. So, if you have a beggar with 4 corners, you're not putting on tzitzis, so you're not doing a mitzvah, just like, you're not reading Kriya Shema. I don't know. But maybe not. Rabbi Nosson Omer kosher ein mezuzah al pischos. Rabbi Nosson says somebody doesn't have a mezuzah on their door is an Amaretz. Rabbi Nosson bar Yosef Omer kosher yesh lo banim ve'enu magadim l'talmud Torah. Oh, so Rabbi Nosson bar Yosef says that somebody has children and he doesn't raise them to learn Torah. That is an Amaretz. Acherim omim. So Acherim say, and we had an interesting discussion a little while back with Yisrael. That was at the very early days of the WhatsApp group, before probably many of us were in there. But discussion about Acherim. So Acherim is generally understood to be Rabbi Meir. I will say that we said that Rabbi Meir already defined an Amaretz as somebody who doesn't eat chulin betaharos. So betaharos. So first of all, that was a different brisa. So I don't know. Maybe you could say it's 2 different students according to Rabbi Meir. I don't know. Or as Tosfos pointed out, where was it on Tesmud Aleph, I believe, Tesmud Beis, I think, that whenever it says Acherim and it also says Rabbi Meir. So clearly Acherim isn't Rabbi Meir. Acherim is actually Rabbi Meir's teacher, Acher, Elisha ben Abuya. Okay. Anyways, Acherim omim afilu kari v'shana v'loshimish tamid chacham mariz Amaretz. Acherim defines in Amaretz as somebody who even though he reads Tanakh and he learns Mishnayos, however, he doesn't mishamish tamid chacham. What is mishamish tamid chacham? Who knows? Who could tell me? What's shimush tamid chachamim? Shimush tamid chachamim is learning Gemara. Right, Shimush Tamid Chacham is that's what Rashi. Let's read Rashi. Hu Talmud. It's Talmud. Atali b'svara that is based on logic. So you know some of the different Mishnah Ta'am that they would give reasons for the Mishnayos, not just read the Mishnayos, but they would give reasons. They would gather together for oskim b'chach, and this is what they would do. And this was the predecessor to the Gemara that the Amoraim organized that we're learning right now. That before there was an actual Gemara, people would get together and they would just talk about brises and ask kashas and proofs and things like that. And that's what Shimush Talmidei Chacham is. So even somebody who learns, and he learns Mishnayos, he learns, Tanakh, but he doesn't learn B'Mishamish Talmidei Chacham, he doesn't learn Gemara, so that is an Amaretz. According to Acherim, Amar Rav Huna, halacha kacherim. And Rav Huna says that lemaisa the halacha is like the acherim, that's the definition of an Amaretz. Rami bar Chama, lo azman olei de Rav Menashe bar Tachliva, the Tani Sifra v'Sifrei ve'ilchasa. So Rami bar Chama would not include Rav Menashe bar Tachlifa in his zimun, even though, right? How come? Because Rav Menashe bar Tachlifa, he would learn, the Medrash halacha of Sefer Vayikra, the Medrash halacha of Bamidbar and Dvarim, and halachis and all sorts of stuff, but he didn't learn Gemara. And now when Rami bar Chama, who refused to include Rav Menashe bar Tachlifa in his zimun, when Rami bar Chama died, so Rava said about Rami bar Chama, lo nachnafshe Rami bar Chama ela to azmin Rav Menashe bar Tachlifa. The reason why Rami bar Chama died was because he didn't include Rav Menashe bar Tachlifa in a zimun. Wow, it's a daring, bold statement to make. Yeah, but one second. Rabbi bar Chama was technically right? Meaning the Brisa said that anybody who learns Psukim and he learns Mishnayos and stuff, but he doesn't learn Gemara, he's an Amaretz, and the Brisa said you can't include an Amaretz in a zimun. So Shiny Rav Menashe bar Tachlifa the Mashmalu me'Rabbanan. So no, Rav Menashe bar Tachlifa is different because he actually did learn Gemara. Rabbi bar Chama would lodak abasre. Rabbi bar Chama just didn't do his research to make sure that this person who he was excluding was really an Amaretz. But in fact, Rabbi Menashe bar Tachlifa did learn Gemara, and therefore he really should have been included in the zimun. Lashon acher, or I'll say, Tishamash maitzah mipumai d'Rabbanan. The Rabbi Menashe bar Tachlifa would learn teachings from the mouths of teachers of Rabbanan. V'garis lu kitzur b'merabban dami. Right, and he would learn them just like regular students. So I guess even though he didn't necessarily maybe partake in these like sessions where they would like ask kashas and do this whole like Gemara thing, but he would learn the Brisa. I guess he would go to shiurim and he would learn from teachers. And we even learned earlier that like Rav would give a shiur in like Medrash halacha, and it was considered Gemara because when he would teach it, he would ask questions and explain it and things like that. So it was considered like Rav Menashe bar Tachlifa also learned Gemara, and therefore he really should have been included in the Zimun. So now we say that if you ate tevel and meiser sheni and meiser rishon that they didn't take truma from, etc., so then you can't make a zimun. So tevel pshita, obviously you can't make a zimun if you ate tevel, because we don't eat tevel, right? You get like karis or something if you eat tevel. So l'tzricha b'tevel tovim d'rabanan. So no, it's talking about d'rabanan tevel. So because it's d'rabanan tevel, you might think that you might be able to make a zimun on it. So kamash milan that you can. What is d'rabanan tevel? If you grow food in a pot that doesn't have any holes in it, i.e., it's completely separate from the ground. So if you grow food in that, so the produce that hasn't been tied from these pots, so it would be considered tevel midrabanan. So if you eat that, you also can't make a zimun on that. Okay, ma'aser rishon chule pshita new. So if we're going back to the Levi and his meiser, so if he takes his 10% and he has not yet separated 10% from that to give to the Kohen, so it's tevel. He can't eat it. He hasn't separated his trumas meiser, right, his 10% to give to the Kohen yet. So of course he wouldn't be able to make a zimun on that. So lo tzricha kigon sheikdimo bechri. So remember we talked about earlier that there was a difference between if the Levi preceded the Kohen when the wheat was just kind of on the field versus when it was already in a pile. So we said when it was on the field, so then if the Levi beats the Kohen, so he just has to give meiser mina meiser. He doesn't have to make up for the truma that he preceded him from, right, that he got before the Kohen got. However, we said that if it was already in a pile and the Levi took his meiser before the Kohen took truma, so not only does the Levi now have to separate 10% and give that to the Kohen, but he also has to make up for the 2% that the Kohen that the Kohen deserves. So we're talking here about that exact case where the Levi got to the pile of grain before the Kohen did. He took 10%, okay, and then from that meiser, from that 10%, he took 10% and gave it to the Kohen, but he didn't yet take the 2% and give that to the Kohen, and then he ate that food. We're saying you cannot make a zimun because you didn't give the truma gedola, right, the truma to the Kohen. So the Gemara says, right, ma'uditema, I would have thought, I would have thought maybe like Rav Papa suggested to Abaye at the bottom of Mem Zayin Amud Aleph, that maybe just like when the Levi precedes the Kohen before it was made into a pile, he only has to give meiser mina meiser. He doesn't have to give truma gedola mina meiser. So maybe the same thing should be bichri, right, when it's already in a pile. So kamash malan kiddushani lei. So it comes to teach us like Abaye answered Rav Papa, which is that once it's made into a pile, it's called dagan, and it's chayav to give truma to the Kohen. And since he didn't do that, you can't make a zimun on that, which is super interesting, by the way. So can you apply this to, let's say, making a bracha rishona? Is this only by zimun, or like what if you eat tevel? Right? Would you make a bracha rishon on it? We're saying that you wouldn't make a zimun on it. Would you make a bracha rishon on it? Right? Because I think Rashi even pointed out. Did Rashi point out? Where did Rashi point out? Botzei berech nietz Hashem. Right? It says halo chazile v'havile birkas zimun abba bavera. Would be considered a birkas zimun abba bavera if he makes. Right, because the Gemara initially asked that by demai, how come you can make a zimun? He's not allowed to eat demai, and therefore it's a bracha that came via an avera. So if we're saying that by birkas zimun, would we say, that the same thing would apply to, let's say, eating food, or maybe it's different by bracha rishona versus bracha achrona, because this is a bracha that came by way of an aver, meaning he's only making the bracha because he did an aver, which is eating this food, which maybe bracha rishona he didn't yet eat the food, so maybe then you would apply asur lanos manol hazeh bracha, and you would make a bracha rishona. But what about bracha achrona? I don't know. I'm curious. I wonder how this would apply to, let's say, eating bracha rishona or you're even bracha achrona really on foods, eating foods that you shouldn't be eating. Okay, weiter. Meiser Sheni Chule. So we say Meiser Sheni and Hekdesh that were not deconsecrated onto money. If you ate that, you wouldn't be able to make a zimun. Again, pshita, it's obvious. So lo tzricha sheniftu v'lo niftu. No, the Chiddush is talking about a situation where they were redeemed but not really redeemed. V'lo niftu kihilchasan, but not that they weren't redeemed properly. Meiser Sheni. So what would that look like for Meiser Sheni? So if you took Meiser Sheni, so you had all this fruit, and instead of transferring the holiness onto like money, like onto $100 bill or something, you transfer it onto some just coin that is just like basically blank metal. It's like the shape of a coin, but it's not actually a coin. It doesn't have any value or anything. So if you transferred the kedusha onto that wouldn't really work. Rahman Amar b'tzarta kesef biyadecha kesef sheish olav tzura. Right? You have to, in the context of being mechal the Meiser Sheni, you have to put it onto money that actually has like a form, and mistama, that means that it actually has value. So hekdesh, and what's the problem with this hekdesh? Shechilu agabe karka v'lo pedo b'kesef Rahman Amar v'nasata kesef v'kamlo. Right? And by hekdesh, it's talking about where you had a field that you said, I'm going to give to the Beis HaMikdash, and then you basically transfer the kedusha of that field onto a different piece of property. So that wouldn't work. You have to transfer it onto money, onto movable objects, onto money, and then you bring it to transfer it onto money. Okay. And a waiter who ate less than a kazayas, you can't include him in the zimun. Pshita, obviously you can't include him in the zimun. I did tana reisha kazayas, tana seifa pachos mikazayas. So you're right. There's really no chiddush here. This is this thing about the waiter eating less than a kazayas is really just there for symmetry. Since the first part of the Mishnah said that that if the waiter ate a kazayas, you can include him. So the Sefer says if he didn't eat a kazayas, if he ate less than a kazayas, you cannot include him. A Gentile, you cannot include him in your zimun. Pshita. Of course you cannot include a Gentile in your zimun. Like zimun is like a pretty like Jewish kind of thing. Like it would make sense that Jews would be the ones to participate in it. So here we're talking about a Gentile who was kind of like a 50% Gentile. He was converting and he did bris milah already, but he didn't go to the mikveh yet. Right, that he's not considered a convert until he does bris milah and he also goes to the mikveh. And as long as he hasn't gone to the mikveh yet, he's not considered a convert, therefore you cannot include him in the zimun. So we said that men cannot include women or avadim kananim or minors in their zimun. So it says Rabbi Yossi, but the Gilyon changed it to Rav Asi. So we'll change it to Rav Asi, because why not? I think it also makes sense, because then he's quoting Rabbi Shua ben Levi, who's also an Amora, whereas Rabbi Yossi would be a Tana. Amar Rav Asi, Gadol Amuto, no, not Gadol, Katan Amuto Ba'arisa Mezamnin Olav. Oh, so Rav Asi says that actually if you have a baby in a crib, you can include him in your zimun. Huh? But I thought the Mishnah said that women and avadim knanim and minors, we do not include in our zimun. Who? Damar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. So Rav Asi is saying like Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Damar Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Afal Pisha Amu Katan Amuta Barisa Em Zamnin Alav, Afal also Snif Lasar. Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi says that a katan was in a crib, even though you can't include him in your zimun, but you can, have him be the 10th man or the 10th baby in this case, right? So if you have 9 and then you have a baby in a crib, you can include that baby to get a minyan. Exciting stuff. Does this apply also for davening or maybe just for benching? I don't know. If you have 9 Jews and a non-Jewish slave, an Eved Kanani, mitzdarfen, we can count that as a minyan. Meisvei. Meisvei Rabbi Eliezer, shnichnas aveis hakneses v'lo matza asar. There was a story with Rabbi Eliezer, the Tana Rabbi Eliezer ben Hurkanus, that he went into a synagogue, and there wasn't 10 people there, but there were 9. V'shichar avdo v'shlimul asar. So what did he do? He freed his slave, he freed his non-Jewish slave, so that is non-Jewish, because when a non-Jewish slave becomes free, so he becomes a yid. So Rabbi Eliezer ben Hurkanus, he freed his slave so that he will then be a yid, and now there will be 10 yidden. Shichar in, lo shichar lo. We see that Davka Rabbi Eliezer at the mamish free his slave in order to get a minyan. So we see that a slave who is not freed, an Eved Kanani, would not count for a minyan. So the Gemara says, actually, Trey, it's Trichu. In that particular case, they needed 2. They were too short. They were only 8. So Shecher Chad Benafik B'chad. So he freed one slave. So now there were 9 Yidden, and then there was another slave over there that they kept as a slave, and then that way they had their minyan. So we see that actually you can include a slave in a minyan. Interesting. But how did Rabbi Eliezer ben Hurkanus free his Eved Kanani? Over Baaseh. But I thought Rabbi Yehuda said that anybody who frees in Eved Kanani, it violates a mitzvah saseh. Shneimar le'olam b'hem tavodu, that you shall, right, that they should always be working for you, right? So that implies forever. You should never free them. So the dvar mitzvah shiny. It's different for a dvar mitzvah such as to make a minyan. Yeah, but mitzvah ba'averahi. Yeah, but it's a mitzvah that only came by an avera. He basically violated a mitzvah saseh in order to do a mitzvah. That's a mitzvah that came through an avera. So mitzvah derabim shiny. So the Gemara says, yeah, but it's different because it was a mitzvah derabim, right? A minyan isn't just for myself. It's for the tzibur. It's for a lot of people. So therefore, it was okay to free this slave in order to do this mitzvah derabim. Okay. Now he wasn't violating a mitzvah lo saseh. Maybe that would probably be different. But a mitzvah saseh, I guess, it's sort of to just not be doing a mitzvah saseh. So that, I guess, could be okay in the context of mitzvah derabim. Okay. A person should always try to wake up early to get to shul so that he could be among the first 10. Because now if even 100 people come after him, he gets all of their schar. They don't get any schar. He gets their schar because he was part of the first 10. Really? No, you don't get their schar. Everybody else also gets schar for coming to shul. But he gets a lot of schar. He gets all whatever schar they get, he gets all of their schar put together as the schar that he gets. That sounds really fancy. Amar Rav Huna, Tisha v'aron mitztarfin. So Rav Huna says that if you're 9 people and you're short 1, so you can just include the Aron Kodesh. Okay. Amar Rav Nachman v'aron gavru. Rav Nachman says, wait a second, you're not going to trick me. The Aron Kodesh isn't a person. You can't include him. So Amar Rav Huna Tisha nirin kasar mitztarfin amrei la kimachnefe v'amrei la kimavres. No. So rather Rav Huna's opinion was actually that no, when you have 9 people, they look like 10 people, so then we can kind of count it as a minyan and it'll work. Some say that that's when they're packed together real tight, because then you can't really tell if it's 9 or 10. Or some say it's when they're spread out, because then it looks like a lot of people all spread out, I guess. Okay, interesting. Amar Bi'ami Shnayim v'Shabbos mitzdarfin. Oh, so Bi'ami says that if you have 2 people eating together and it's Shabbos, so then Shabbos could be mitzdarf with them, and it's like they're 3 people. Amar Rav Nachman v'Shabbos gavru. Rav Nachman said, what? Shabbos, is Shabbos a person? What do you mean you can join together for zimun? Okay, so Rabbi Ami said that actually 2 Talmidei Chachamim who are sharpening each other in halacha, they could join together for a zimun. Okay, I don't know why this is a good solution to Rav Nachman's assertion that Shabbos isn't a person. Well, so they just said, yeah, we just don't need 3 people, I guess, at all, I guess. Okay. Machver Rav Chizda, so Rav Chizda pointed out, going on of Rav Sheshes, such as me and Rav Sheshes, we mom sharpen each other with in halacha. Machver Rav Sheshes, going on of Rav Chizda, Rav Sheshes pointed out, like me and my chavusa Rav Chizda, we sharpen each other in halacha. Very beautiful. And with that, we'll end. We'll hold it right there, friends. Till next time. So, hope you all enjoyed, and I hope you enjoy your day. Bye.